Hi SQL folks, welcome to this week's content. Now typically each Thursday I record a video around SQL Server troubleshooting, performance tuning, query optimization, etc., which is a free tutorial available to anybody and everybody. The video is available on sqlmaestros.com and our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/sqlmaestros. Now for this week's content, which is this video, I thought of doing something different. But let me first give you a background. Sometime last year, we decided to create a premium content section, which means that on sqlmaestros.com, we have a free membership where you can watch all our free content, including all the free videos that we do each week. And then now on sqlmaestros.com, we also have a premium content section where we publish advanced webinars, the paid ones, and we publish premium videos, which is advanced content, advanced videos, content around level 300, 400 stuff inside SQL Server. Which means on sqlmaestros.com, we have two kinds of membership now, which is the free membership and the premium membership. Similarly, on our YouTube channel, we have the free video playlist, which is like all the free videos go in that playlist. And the same advanced content which we have on sqlmaestros.com under premium membership is available on YouTube under members only section. So if you log on to sqlmaestros.com, if you navigate to sqlmaestros.com and click on join here, now this is open in another tab here already, you will see the free membership and you will see the premium membership. And I have explained you what is the kind of content we have available in free versus premium. Now let's say you have taken a premium membership. What does it really look like? So if you go to the premium membership, you log in with your premium account, you will see SQL Server tutorials. These are all the advanced tutorials and demos as part of premium membership. You will see all the recorded webinars which are part of premium membership. So let's jump over to this tab and show you a lot of videos that are around in the premium membership section. There are, as of this recording, there are more than 30 videos, but each week one video gets added. Likewise, if you jump over to the recorded webinar section, each week a webinar gets added. That's how our premium library keeps growing. So you have the free one and you have the premium one. Now, if you log on to YouTube, so let's jump over to SQL Maestros YouTube channel. And if you see the playlist section, there is something here, what you can see, members only content, the first one. And let me switch over to this tab where I've opened up the playlist for members only content. You can see the same videos that are available on sqlmaestros.com under premium library are available here. Which means if you want access to our premium content, you have two choices. Either you do this on sqlmaestros.com, you can become an annual premium member. It's like taking an annual premium membership. Or you could take up the membership on YouTube, which is monthly, just following the YouTube guidelines and YouTube options. Of course, now your immediate question will be, hey Amit, is the content exactly the same across SQL Maestros and YouTube? Yes. You take up the membership any way you like, you would get the same content. Taking up membership on sqlmaestros.com turns out to be a little more cost effective than YouTube. And YouTube is monthly and SQL Maestros premium membership is annual in nature. So of course that is definitely more effective. But you're absolutely free to make whatever choices you want. Now, coming back to the content, what are we doing in today's video? So when we launched this premium membership, premium content concept, I had been occasionally getting queries and questions and requests that, hey, what does the premium content really look like? People wanted to see some examples, maybe one or two videos to see, okay, if this premium membership is really worth the money that you invest. Anyway, that is very nominal, but yet it is something. So what I thought, why not for today's free video, typically which we do each Thursday, each week, for today's video, why not show you the premium content? So this week, so this is how it goes like. Each week on Wednesday, we do the premium content and Thursday we do the free video. So this week's Wednesday's premium demo, the premium content, the advanced content or whatever you call it, I'm going to show that to you. So for this week's video, this is April 10th today. So as of this recording, so yesterday, which was April 9, 2024, we recorded a 20-minute video on SQL Server statistics update about the dynamic threshold for auto update stats in SQL Server, along with trace flag 2371. So all the discussions around that and what it is and how it works, etc. Long video, lot of information with a lot of demos. So that is a 20-minute video which we recorded for our premium content, which is available on sqlmaestros.com as well as on our YouTube channel. Let me show that to you. So we are here. So if you see right there, SQL Server statistics update, dynamic threshold trace flag 2371. So if you are a premium member, either on SQL Maestros or YouTube, you can watch this. All our premium users can watch this. But if you are just a free member or you're just freely navigating our videos on YouTube, you will not be able to watch this. So based on all the requests that were coming in from the community, I thought for today's Thursday free video, I am going to show this video to you, which is a 20-minute demo, a 20-minute tutorial, and I'm going to publish this as part of Thursday's free videos. So just that you get the look and feel of what the premium content really looks like. Yeah, but each Wednesday, it's not always super advanced. Sometimes we even do intermediate level stuff. Sometimes the tutorials are short. Sometimes they are very long. Sometimes they're lovely tips and tricks that you can apply in production right away. So it's a mix of a lot of things, right? So yeah, so let's jump over to this video. SQL Server statistics update, dynamic threshold for, and of course talking about trace flag 2371. This is the video, the premium content, which I am publishing for Thursday's free video. So here it goes. Over to the video, but just before we jump over to the video, make sure you log on to sqlmaestros.com and explore our free membership as well as premium membership, and do not forget the masterclass recordings. So the SQL Server performance tuning masterclass recordings, 40 hours of deep dive content, all HD recordings are now available. It's available at 60% off and lifetime subscription. Yes, if you subscribe, you can watch the content anywhere, anytime, as many times as you want. No annual, no biannual, nothing at all. You get access for life. This is really worth it. And this is all you need if you really want to dive deep into SQL Server performance tuning. So explore all of that right up there on sqlmaestros.com. All right, friends, enough of talking. Over to the premium content, the premium video. Do watch. Subscribe to our channels and log on to sqlmaestros.com and become a member either way. And of course, if you like the content, share it with your friends and colleagues. I'm sure there will be a lot of new learnings coming your way. Over to the premium content. Here it goes. Thank you. Today's content is about statistics. No, it's not about the basics of statistics or the overview or the histogram. There are a lot of videos on sqlmaestros.com and our YouTube channel where you can learn about the basics of what statistics are. And of course, I have another video where I talk about the histogram in detail. So it will make sense. You may want to watch that video first before you come to this one. Because in this one, I am specifically going to talk about the update stats, caveats in SQL Server. So how does update stats really work? And more specifically, the focus is going to be on trace flag 2371. All right, so assuming that you know what statistics are and how they help the optimizer with cardinality estimation and all the query tuning stuff, assuming that you know all of that, let's straight away jump into the topic of update stats. Now, when stat objects are created, they can be created manually and mostly they get created automatically as well. So whenever you have your queries which are using specific columns in predicate and the auto create stats is turned on, stat objects get created automatically. You may manually create them and they also get created by the virtue of creating indexes. Now, when these stats objects are created on the column, of course, they need to be updated as well, because now assuming that you know the basics, so you would also know that if stats are not up to date, it may really affect cardinality estimation. The optimizer will land up making poor choices, and that may result in bad query execution plans and will affect query performance in turn. So stats need to be updated. Now here comes a lot of tricky stuff with update stats. Now, generally speaking, what is the rule inside SQL Server Database Engine, or what are the thresholds? How will auto update stats trigger? Now, just like stats creation, the update stats can also be done manually, and SQL Server can also take care of it automatically. So by default, stats can be created automatically and it gets updated automatically. All these knobs and switches are turned on by default at the database level, which is auto create stats and auto update stats. Coming back to only update now. So assuming that auto update stats is turned on in your database, and that's the default option, SQL Server has a typical threshold of 20% of the total data. 20% of the data has changed plus 500 rows. Back in the days, in the old versions of SQL Server, this threshold was set, which means the auto update stats, let's say code base will keep a track of how many rows have changed in your table in that specific column. Remember, stats are on column data. So you like, let's say if your table has 10 columns and you have stats on 3 columns, then the data in those columns need to change. Obviously, I'm just calling it out. So let's say you have a table with first name, last name, and middle name. You have stats only on last name. So the data needs to change in the last name attribute. Okay, coming back to the threshold and the percentage and the numbers. 20% of the data needs to change plus 500 rows. This is the general rule of auto update stats to trigger automatically. Now, all this is good for smaller tables, tables with a few hundreds and a few thousands of rows. It's all good. But I think somewhere around in SQL Server 2008 or SQL Server 2008 R2, you might check that on the internet, Microsoft introduced a trace flag 2371, because that was the time when we saw a lot of changes in the amount of data that companies want to store inside the database engine. Database sizes were growing pretty huge and table sizes were becoming huge. So Microsoft introduced a trace flag 2371. We'll talk about the trace flag in a bit, but what was the background? The background was, while this rule of 20% plus 500 rows was okay, was seemingly good, but if the table becomes pretty huge, if it has like millions of rows, then this percentage is not very realistic. Let's do some basic mathematics. Let's say if your table has 100,000 rows, so 20% here would mean 20,000 rows. Now, 20,000 rows plus 500, so I'm just ignoring that 500 plus 500 rows. I'm just ignoring that for the sake of simple calculation. So if you have a table with 100,000 rows and you have stats on one of the attributes, and now for auto update stats to trigger, remember there is a counter inside the database engine which is keeping track of how many rows have changed or how many data items have changed. So if 20,000 data items change, then auto update stats will trigger, which means 20,000 rows, which is fair enough for a smaller table. But imagine if this was a table with 100 million rows. Now for 100 million rows, are you really talking about changing 20 million rows until auto update stats trigger? Wow, that may not be realistic, and definitely not, and that's not practical. So for such huge tables and for such big and large tables, Microsoft introduced this trace flag 2371, where as the table gets bigger, I repeat, as the table gets bigger, this threshold gets lower, which means less and less number of rows needs to be changed as the table gets bigger for the auto update stats to trigger. which means if you look into the documentation of Microsoft, they have a graph where they explain what really that threshold is and how that 20% will slide down, and the percentage, that 20%, that percentage will keep getting lower and lower as the table gets bigger and bigger. So generally speaking, with these large tables which has millions of rows, the percentage, that threshold will come below even 1%. Yes, that's like being practical and realistic. Now, we're talking about 2008 and R2 and those days. So what's up with today with the latest versions of SQL Server? So as of this recording, like SQL Server 2022. So what's up with these new versions? So the trace flag, now in SQL Server 2008 R2, this trace flag was introduced. So if your database engine has such huge tables and you want this dynamic threshold update mechanism, then you have to turn on the trace flag manually. If you turn on the trace flag, then only you will get this feature, you will get this effect. But then Microsoft made this trace flag 2371 as the default behavior starting from SQL Server 2016, which means your version of SQL Server needs to be SQL Server 2016, and of course the database needs to be in 130 compatibility mode, so it can get this behavior of trace flag 2371. So if you are in SQL Server 2016 and higher and database compatibility level is 130, this change, this behavior is by default. So you don't really need to worry about those smaller tables with thousands of rows. All that is good. We're really talking about this behavior taking effect if you have huge tables, and in general it is a good implementation. It is a good behavior for all practical reasons. All right, with this, let me quickly show you that yes, in recent versions of SQL Server, this behavior of trace flag 2371, which is this dynamic threshold update mechanism, is in effect. So I'm not really going to turn on any trace flag. I'm not going to turn off anything because this is now by default. I'm showing you this demo in SQL Server 2022. So I'm going to show you that 20% thing very quickly and then show you the impact of 2371 being implemented. All right, so that okay, how your large tables might behave differently. Probably you are not even aware of this. Let's get started with the demo. We are using AdventureWorks 2016. Okay, so we are going to create a table, a copy, here of person.person. So let's create a copy as person.person2. Let's quickly do that. I'm going to go a little quick with that 20% thing. So this table has about 20,000 rows, as you can see. Right now, this is a heap. So I'm just going to do help stats to show you that there are no statistics right now on this table. Okay, what are the columns on this table? Person.person. You may guess it has first name, middle name, and last name. All that is good. Let's go and run a statement. Let's start from person.person2 where last name is equal to Bansal. There is no last name equals to Bansal. So you will get a empty result set, which is fine. But now auto create stats is turned on. So SQL Server has automatically created statistics for last name. Now, if you run help stats to system stored procedure, you will see that a stats object gets created automatically. Now, let's go and look at a few more details. Let's zoom out a bit. We are going to query this DMV, sysdmdb stats properties, and look at a few attributes there and pass on the object ID person.person2. Let's see what is the modification counter. So this is the stats object, this is the name, the number of rows in the table is like 19972 that and while this auto stats was created, while this stats was created automatically, it did not sample 100% of rows. It took about 50% looks like. That's why you have this number 8830. Modifications here says 0. This is a brand new stats object. We haven't done any changes. So modification counter says 0. Now, let's do auto update. Tricky stuff. Okay, why tricky? We'll talk about that a bit later. Auto update statistics is turned on by default. I really don't need to run this again. It is turned on. This is the default behavior. What I first want to show you that what really is 20% of 19972 plus 500. Let's go and see that mathematics. So we need to at least make 4495 rows. We have to update at least 4495 rows for auto update stats to trigger. This is the minimum that we need to do. So this is going to be the threshold. Remember this number 4495. All right, so that's the number. And just to show that to you again, yes, modification here is 0. Now let's go and update. So we will update last name equals to Bansal, where business entity ID is less than equal to 4490, whatever number of records it may impact. Let's go and do this update. When we do this update, it updates only 3685 rows. Fair enough. You know the threshold is 4495, so we need to update a few more. We'll do that in a moment. Let's go and check whether 3685 rows have been recorded in the modification counter. And you can see, yes, 3685 rows is up there. All right, you will see this for the last name that's up there. And you might be a bit surprised, where is this other statistics object coming in, right? You know, auto create stats is turned on. So our update statement had business entity ID. So the second one is for business entity ID. Okay, you can ignore that for the moment. 3685 is updated. So we need to update another. Let's fire another update and just let's update a few more rows. So let's just run this update statement again. Another 3685 rows have been updated. Now we are well past beyond the threshold. Now you can see the modification counter is 7370. So we are way ahead than 4495, whatever that number was. All right, now if we fire this simple select statement that we had earlier, okay, where did that go? Okay, I am going to take this somewhere down here so that it's easily, let's put it up here next to this one. So now if we fire the select statement, the auto update stats should trigger and modification counter should be reset back to 0. This is what is expected. But tricky stuff. This might not happen here right now. We might have to run dbcc free proc cache. That's another story. I'm not going to bring in another topic into this one, but let's give this a try. So I'm going to fire this select statement. Okay, this is done. And let's go and look into the stats object now. And you will see, okay, auto update stats has not triggered. This might have happened as I expect. So let's just free the proc cache once and fire the select statement. And now I hope auto update stats will trigger with this select statement. Let's verify with our DMVs. And there you go. So modification is back to 0. And yes, auto update stats has triggered. So this 20% rule thing works really well for this small table. All right, now the real stuff. We want to deal with the large table where this rule, this threshold of 20% does not apply. As the table gets bigger, the threshold will get lower and very, very low. That very low threshold will also result in a huge number of rows, right? Because the table is huge. Okay, let's give this a try. Let's go down. The impact of 2371. I have a table here in AdventureWorks 2016, DBO transactions. Let's go and execute this. And this has 31 million rows, 312-63601, 31 million rows. Now, what will 20% of 31 million look like? 21%. So you could do a basic mathematics. This will look like 6 million rows. And as I explained in the introduction, updating 6 million rows before auto update stats triggers is very, very unrealistic. So that is 6 million. Well, what is 1% of 31 million? Let's look at 1%. 1% of 31 million here means about 300,000 rows. That's 1% of 31 million. 30 million, let's call this 30 million, 300,000 rows approximately. I'm not even going to update 300,000 rows. You know, for the purpose of this demo, I'm only going to update about 150,000 rows. That is 0.5%. Just to show you that thresholds are even lower because the table is huge. Okay, so now let's keep scrolling down. Now for transactions table, let's just go and look into this. There are a couple of stat objects that I can see. I am going to create a stats object here. DBO transactions, okay. Looks like there is something on actual cost. Which one it is, we'll figure that out. So I'm going to fire a select statement and I just want to show you what are the columns here. Let's just go and do this. And just to show, oops, no, sorry, not this one, just top 10 records. It's a, in terms of attributes, the table is small. It just has transaction ID, product ID, transaction date, quantity, and actual cost, customer ID also. I'm going to play around with actual cost here. So first, I just want to make sure that there is a stats on actual cost. So I'll fire a simple select statement, where actual cost is something, doesn't matter. Let's go and look at the select statement here. SQL Server would have created a stats object for actual cost. Okay, so something for actual cost already exists. It could be either this, okay, it will be this one, the last row, because this is column number 5. I'm guessing that this is going to be that one, last row. Now, we have the stats object already. Let's fire an update. What am I updating, friends? Look at this. I'm updating with transaction ID. I talked about the number of rows, right? So I'm going to, I said 150. Okay, I'm going to put it 100,000. Let's just give it a try. I'm going to say, let's do 50,000. Let's do it in 3 chunks, okay? 50, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to update 50,000 rows now. Let's do this. Okay, we fired an update statement. 50,000 rows have been updated. Is the modification counter updated? Is SQL Server Engine keeping track of that? Yes, you can see this is the last stats object here for that 5th column, actual cost modification 50,000. Now, 50,000 rows have been updated. Now, if I fire a select statement, is 50,000 rows, which is way below even 0.25% of the total number of rows, will auto update stats trigger? Let's give it a try. Let's fire the select statement. Okay, and let's go and verify. Has auto update stats triggered? No, not yet. Okay, let's do this DBCC free proc cache. We did this earlier, so it might be fair to do this again. And let's fire a select statement here again. Okay, nothing comes up. Did auto update stats trigger? Okay, no. So let's fire another update. Let's update another 50,000 rows, which means now the modification counter will be updated to 100,000. Is it? Rightly so. There you go, 100,000. Now let's go and fire our select statement. Is 100,000 rows good enough? Which is less than what? 0.5%. Okay, let's give this a try. Does it work, friends? It still doesn't work. I'm going to update another 50,000 rows. Okay, now the modification counter will be 150,000 rows. We are getting closer to 0.5% there, 150,000 rows. Let's do a select on actual cost. Has auto update stats triggered? Let's give this a try. Not yet, surprisingly. Let's free the proc cache and see if this works. Okay, and fire a select statement again. You might be wondering, what is this story with DBCC free proc cache? Well, I'll do that in another video. Still not done. I'm going to fire one more update statement, and I hope it works this time. Let's give this a try. Okay, and I think it has worked now. So I think the threshold is slightly about 0.5%. There you go, bang on. Now you can see modification counter has been set back to 0, and you can see the update here. Like as of this recording, the date, time, whatever it is, shows up here for actual cost. So looks like for this table with about 30 million rows, the threshold is slightly above 0.5%. So you can see the impact of trace flag 2371, whatever that code base is. So if you want this behavior in SQL Server versions prior to 2016, you got to turn on this trace flag manually. It might be that your environment is actually running some of those versions of SQL Server, and it will be really, really useful. But if you are on versions from 2016 and onwards, and if those databases are incompatibility level 130, then it is the default behavior as I have shown you in the demo. I did not turn on or off anything at all. No knobs, no switches, no trace flags. This is the default behavior. Dynamic stats update threshold. As the table gets bigger, the threshold keeps getting lower. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Friends, make sure you check out SQLmaestros.com and specifically the SQL Server Performance Tuning Masterclass recordings. 40 hours of deep dive content, HD video recordings, you get all the code snippets, demos, everything. And if you subscribe, you get lifetime access. Yes, it's a lifetime subscription. And there is 60% off also. Do spread the word, do comment on this video and share it with your friends and colleagues. Happy SQL. If you like the content, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon so that you're notified on new videos. Most importantly, visit SQLmaestros.com. There's a lot of SQL learning resources out there. Video courses, master classes, lab kits, ebooks, blogs, hands-on labs, and a lot more. Follow us on Twitter @SQLmaestros and myself _Bansal. Last but not the least, do subscribe to our newsletters. See you soon in another video. Goodbye.